purpose of this video is to show you how to enter data into a Logger Pro file. So the function I'm going to use is just the linear function again, y is equal to 2x, and with the domain going from -50 to 50. So working right off of the lab pi 1, what we need to do first is open our application for Logger Pro. There's a number of ways to do that. I'm just going to use the Launchpad thingy. So one thing that you have to understand about Logger Pro is once you open a blank file, the first thing it's going to do is give you some x's and y's, and that's good for us because we are only in this lab. We're only graphing x's versus y's. However, they have two types of columns when we enter data. One is called the manual column, another one is a calculated column. And this is where Logger Pro differs quite a bit from most spreadsheets. The manual column would be for doing simple things like a certain pattern, and a calculated column would be when you want to actually do a calculation like I showed you in the Google Sheets document where you use the equal sign before. So it turns out that when they open this blank file for you, they give you two manual columns. So we cannot do a calculation with the y column, so the first thing I'm going to do is to delete this column. That gets rid of our y's, and we'll generate a calculated column later. We can use this one because this is a manual column. Now what we need to do to get our correct range of data is to double click on this, and it will open up the manual column options. The other way to open this menu is to go through data, and you can see column options, and if we have more than one, it will give you different columns that you can work with. Either way, you can get to the same place. We want to leave this as an X name. If we were going to study two other variables like a velocity and time, we might type in velocity in this column, and in another column we type in the time. And we're also able to use a short name, which a lot of times beat the variable. So you might type in velocity here and then a v here, and then the units would be meters per second, miles per hour. And in the lab pi 1, we don't really have any units that we have to deal with, at least for part A. So then the next thing is, in this case, we want to generate values, and so we can generate values only with a manual column, and that's what we're dealing with here. So we want numeric values, and our lab directions told us to start at -50 in this case. So we'll type in our first value, and our end value would be +50. So we'll type that in as well. And we still want to maintain increments of 1, and then we would be able to say done. And there you can see that we start at 50, and if you scroll down, you've got the 0 and all the way down to 50. The only reason it's at 101 this time is because it has a different row it has a 0 row essentially that you don't have in the spreadsheets like Excel or Google Sheets. We have the manual column. The next thing, the x's, the next thing we want to do is generate the y columns using a function again. And this time we actually have to use the data menu, and we'll create a new calculated column, which is this option. If we wanted to just make it another set of data that we're going to type in, we would just do a manual column, or if it was something that we wanted to pick up a pattern like we did with our x's that are already there, we would use a manual column for that as well. So this time we click on that, and it gives us a slightly different menu for this. It says column, and what we would want to call this will be y in this case. And if we were doing the example I gave you where we had a velocity versus time, this might be our time column. Or it might be the velocity column where we would type the name there. Then in this case we would type a short name. We might type time there. We might type t here for the bottom. I'm just going to use a lowercase y. And then if it was time, we might put seconds in there, and they give you a whole lot of options that you can put in there. So the next thing that you really need to worry about in this case is the expression, and that's where we type in the calculation that we want the spreadsheet to do. Now in this case, this is the only spreadsheet program you'll use that doesn't start this with an equal sign. Not to use the equal sign in this particular problem. You just simply type in what you want to type in. So here we type in eq2 and use the same time multiplication operator with the asterisk, and then we can type in the variable x column. However, when you type in variables in this program, you need to put quotes around the variables, and this will be capital sensitive. So if my variable that I want to operate on, my x, if I put in lowercase x, it's going to be confused. I have to type in quotes capital X end quotes, and that will take that as a mathematical expression. Now, to simplify things, one thing you can do is you can look through the columns you already have, and I can choose this one. At this point, there's only one option because I only have one other column, and that will type it in for me, and notice that it's using the quotations as well. When I click done, it generates a column automatically. It puts it in a different color so that helps the viewer kind of see things that that you need to see. And there we have the two columns of data that we need for this particular lab exercise. Cut. One of the things with Logger Pro that isn't as convenient is the saving of it. Now, you probably want to save this on your desktop or on your computer somewhere. I'm going to just use the desktop as an example. But ultimately, you need to get the file shown into or moved into your Dropbox or your personal file so that I, as a teacher, can correct it or look at it and help you or advise you how to change some things if you need to. So the simplest way to do that is to save it on your own computer, whether it's in the desktop or whatever folder you want to use, and then upload it to your personal folder for the physics class. And the way to do that is pretty straightforward. It's kind of like anything else as far as saving is concerned. You can save, or you can hit the save button here once you are ready to save it. We might save this. Again, you want to give it a title that's worth, that helps you remember what the heck the file is. So I will label this lab pi part A, and say OK. I'm putting it on the desktop. We hit save. So now it's there. I can close it out, and if I'm ready to put it into my folder, for a personal folder for either my lab partners or my teacher, Mr. Collier, to look at, then I would have to just simply open up my personal folder again from Google. If you're logged in, oops, I'm logged in as my teacher's profile. So we'll log in as my personal profile. I would go to Drive, find my Share With Me folder, and find the personal folder that Mr. Collier gave me, which would be the one with my name on it. I won't buy it. Here it is. Now I have my part from lab, from the lab for part A for the sheets saved in there. What I want to do this time is I want to import or put in a new full file. So it says upload file here, and I saved it on my desktop, so I want to do my searching not in the downloads but in the desktop, and I will look for the lab 1 part A, and then this one icon with the graph paper. That's the unique icon for Logger Pro. We upload it, and then it will upload. It shouldn't take real long, but then you see that it's in there. One disadvantage is you cannot open it and view it live. So if you want to edit it, now you have to download that onto your own computer, save it there, make your edits, save it on your computer, and then upload it there. So that's a distinct disadvantage that we get from Logger Pro, and that's why a lot of students, for many of the labs as they can, they'll use the Google Sheets because it gives you the live saving and live editing. You don't have to upload it to your computer or download it to your computer, upload it from your computer every time you make a change.